Gemara. It's Chedesh Sivan, and we are up to the Pevav and Aleph. But quickly, we learned a Mishnah, and there were three sections in the Mishnah. The first section in the Mishnah was that a Bas Yisrael got engaged to a Kohen or pregnant with a Kohen child does not eat in these instances Truma. Cage number two. The second section of the Mishnah was that if a Bas Yisrael was engaged to a Levi and so on, she's not entitled to eat Maisa. And stage number three was about a Bas Levi married to a Kohen. And again, while she's engaged, she cannot eat Maisa nor Truma. Now, stage number three of the phase number three of the Mishnah is hard to understand. We'll get to it later. The Gemara is discussing number two. A Bas Levi who a Bas Yisrael married to Levi cannot eat Maisa. Anybody can eat Maisa. So we said there's an opinion of Meir who holds that only ones who can eat Maisa are a Shevet Levi and a Kohen, but not a Yisrael. A Yisrael cannot eat Maisa. And we brought and Rabbi Lozum Nazaya disagrees. He says that anybody can eat Maisa. And he brings a pasuk that as Maasa b'nei Yisrael asher yirimu truma l'Hashem. So we see that Maisa and Truma are similar to each other, and just like Truma cannot, this is what Meir says, since Truma cannot be eaten by Yisrael, nor too can Maisa. But all the other dinim of Truma we disregard because we have the Yukim. So now we're up to the Gemara. The Gemara will say we have another source. Why do we need two sources to tell you that Maisa is like Truma? So and one other thing, the Rabbanan said, what do they do with this equation of Maisa and Truma? They say that when you have crop that you haven't yet given your Truma, it's called Tevel. The same thing is also if you haven't given your Maisa. But you haven't given any of your Maisas, it is considered Tevel, and you're not allowed to eat from it. Not only if the Truma wasn't given. Now there's a big machlek Rishonim in all of this. According to Tosfos himself and many of the Rishonim, it applies to any of the things, even if Meiser Ani is missing or Meiser Sheni hasn't been taken out. Maybe he's still Chayiv Misa for the Meiser. Others say it's only limited to Truma and Meiser. Others say it's only that you Chayiv Misa for Tevel. Others say it's only Truma and Trumas Meiser. For the rest, you only get an Avera. The other thing is, what's the logic in it? Rashi says here, and a few other places, and Gittin as well, in other places, Rashi says that the idea of Tevel is there's Truma and Chulin and mixed together, and that's why you're not allowed to eat it. Tais and other Shem have a problem with that, so why can't a Kohen eat Tevel? There's Truma there. But those who rally in defense of Rashi say, when can a Kohen eat Truma? Only once it's separated. But Kol's man is not separated, even a Kohen cannot eat the Truma, and that's why you're Chayiv. Others learn Tevel is an entity on its own. There's no Truma mixed in there. It's not like there's a partnership in there. There's no Truma mixed in there at all. It's just an entity on its own, and it's us until you set aside whatever you have to set aside. So says the Gemara here, we're up to Ukilatanya, another place, about 12 lines at the top of the page. Ukilatanya, like within the Braisa, another source for this din. Rabbi Yezebel says, Yochel, I would have thought, Lo Yehei Chayiv, regarding Tevel. I would have thought, Lo Yehei Chayiv, Ela al Tevel. I would have thought you're only Chayiv on Tevel, Shaloi Hurim Imenu Kolika. You took nothing away from it. You didn't even begin removing anything away. Then it's forbidden. If you set aside Trumadoila, but you did not set aside Maisa Edition, or Maisa Edition and Maisa Sheni, or you did not set aside Maisa Sheni, or I feel a Maisa Ani. This is the Maisa you do every the third and sixth year. Maisa Ani is like it's tantamount to Tzedakah, which there's no kedusha in it at all. So I would have thought you set aside the Truma, the Maisa Edition, Maisa Sheni. The only thing you did not set aside is the Maisa Ani. It's no longer Tevel. Therefore, to the pasuk, you're not allowed to eat in your gates. So we have the word gates. And there it talks about meiser, and then it says later on, the achlu b'sherecha. And then later on it says that you should eat in your gates, and then you get full. The surveyor, and you get full. When it comes to finishing off all your meisers. In the third year and so on, it says you'll eat it in your gates and you get full. So it says sherecha in both places. So and here it says you should eat. In the first place, you shouldn't. Meiser ani, just like it's talking about this is the third year. What kind of meiser do you give in the third year? Meiser ani, and it says that you can eat it in sherecha. So therefore, we'll say that sherecha mukan. When it says loisucha, you should not eat b'sherecha. We're also including meiser ani, that you're not allowed to eat it until you give away everything you have to give away. You cannot eat it. So from here you know that Tevel, regardless of what you didn't take out, you're doing an Aveda because it's still Tevel. Even if you did everything else, but you missed that one. So now we have two different Lamudim to teach you that. We have Truma and Maisa compared to each other, that you're not allowed to eat, just like you're not allowed before you giving Truma, you're not allowed to eat without taking them out the Maisa. And then we have the Pasuk of Lesuch. So you want to know why you need both. So the mother, because the Ima has, if you only knew Rabbi Yossi, I would have thought having a lot. You get a lot. Ava Misa loy, we would not have known that you get Misa, and therefore Kamashlo, and therefore that's why the first pasuk it says we compare to Truma where you chayiv Misa. And now I just told you the argument whether it includes everything or just the Truma's Misa. Kamash Malot. That's one way of learning it. Lishnachin is another version. Meiser Rishon de Tovel. That how do you know that Meiser Rishon if you did not take it out? It's still considered Tevel. Med Rabbi Yossi Nafka. We learn out from Rabbi Yossi. Imahi from there. Hava min alav. I would have thought limited to alav. I will miss a loy, but you don't get killed for it. Kamash Malot. Therefore, it tells you we have this hekesh over there of Truma and Meiser, where it says Kes Masav Neisrosh Yerimu. Now what? That they have the same dinim, and therefore you are chayiv. What do you call it? That your chayiv is called tevel and your chayiv mis. So your mother, and I just told you before, some say it means the truma of meiser, because what happens, the Levi gets his meiser, he then has to give part of that to a kohen. It's called truma's meiser. Only that is the part that causes it to be a chayiv mis. And there's a big argument in the Shainim if you're allowed to give the truma's meiser before you give the meiser. Can you, if you, because if you give the truma's meiser before you give the meiser, then it's possible not to get misa for meiser. If you can't, then you'll always have misa for meiser as well, not directly, but because the fact is it's mixed into the truma's meiser. So you decided, the author of our Mishnah that only a Levi and a Kohen can eat, only a Levi can eat from meiser, not Yisrael. Look at the last case of the Mishnah. A Bas Levi, how you can explain the last case of the Mishnah? If a Bas Levi was engaged to a Kohen, which means she's not entitled to anything that her husband can give her, or Bas Kohen Levi, the daughter of a Kohen to a Levi, she should not eat Levi Truma, not Truma, but Levi Meiser. No Meiser. The question is why not? She's a Bas Levi. Even a mayor holds that a Bas Levi is entitled to eat Meiser. So if she cannot eat on account of her husband, she should eat on account of herself. What's the problem here? How you learn pshat in the end of the Mishnah? In fact, no matter which way you learn, how you learn pshat in the end of the Mishnah. Said you're right. I'll tell you what the Mishnah means when it says ma'ena she cannot eat. It doesn't mean that she can't eat. Of course she could eat. She's a Bas Levi. Why can't she eat? Diktoni means doesn't mean she cannot eat. It means eina noisendes shus litrim. She has no right to appoint a shliach, to designate a shliach and say to the shliach, you go ahead, and you go ahead and go ahead and give truma from my husband's estate. She cannot do that while she's only engaged. That's what it means. Not that she cannot eat. She cannot enable it to be eaten by giving the truma. Says the Gemara, or giving a meiser from it. Says the Gemara, McLeod in the sewer. The senator should. So they tell me if she would have been married, she can on her own without her husband's knowledge appoint a shliach to go to the field and take out the truma and meisers. But because she's only engaged, she can't. Is that so? Yes, it is so, because you can. What time we learned? It says the pasuk, "V'achaltem oisa," you should eat them. B'chol makom, everywhere you want. Atem, you ubeichem in your household. Limit, your household is your wife. Limit al nesur basol, that your married wife, she can appoint a shliach to go ahead and give the trumas and meiser without her husband permission. Without husband permission. After you're telling me that the Mishnah is actually the last case. Is not talking about whether she's entitled to eat or not. It's only talking about whether she has the right to appoint a shliach. Maybe taka means that she cannot eat. Amrit, that can't be. Truma is chamura oicheles. It can, and it can't be, because truma, which is stricter, she can eat meiser hakalo koshkein. If she was a bas kohen. If she's a Bas Kohen and engaged to a Kohen, she can continue in Truma. You're telling me that she's a Bas Levi, she cannot continue in Maisa? It doesn't make sense. Well, Koshkin, surely. The Pasuk is coming to tell you that they're talking about here a married person, Bas Yisrael, she can give permission to give Truma. She can give permission to give Truma. So that's how we know from this pasuk. When it says the pasuk, "V'chaltem oiseh," the pasuk says, "V'chaltem oiseh b'chol makom." So we said it means that a married wife can appoint a shliach. So you want to ask, maybe it's not the married wife appointing, maybe it's literally the married wife can go ahead and eat meiser. So we said it doesn't make sense. If we know that the married wife can go ahead and eat truma if she's married to a kohen, surely she can eat mice if she's married to a Levi. It's even less stringent than truma. Must be the pasuk is talking about that she can appoint a shliach to go ahead and to give the truma a mice without her husband's knowledge. Says the
Can I
Gemara.
ask something? Well,
Yeah, sure.
why is the kohen's family giving truma in the first place?
No, this is from right now. Levi's family can give. No, we're saying here that a Levi's wife can go ahead and give all the meisers that are involved, the meiser sheni and whatever it is, or truma. Let's say a Levi has to give truma as well. So that's what we're talking about. We're saying that the pasuk cannot be talking about that she's allowed to eat meiser, because we have another pasuk that the wife of a kohen is permitted to eat truma. Of course, they're not giving away truma to others. She can eat truma. So I don't need a special pasuk to allow a woman married to a Levi that she's now able to eat meiser. If she's married to a kohen, she can eat truma, which is so strict. Surely, if she's married to a Levi, she can eat. So we're changing the interpretation of the pasuk and saying the pasuk is not talking about enabling to eat, is giving her the right to go ahead and give truma, because a Levi has to give truma as well. So she can do without her husband's knowledge.
So she can give her father's truma.
No. Because she's married to a Levi.
Oh, this is the one who's married to a Levi. Okay.
Yes, and even though the pasuk talks about that she can eat meiser, we're changing the pasuk because we don't need a pasuk to tell you that she's allowed to eat meiser. Why not? If she would have been married to a kohen, she can eat truma. If she's married to a Levi, surely she can eat meiser. So the pasuk is trying to tell us that she has the right to give truma of her husband's field without her husband's knowledge. He's a Levi, so he just gets meiser as the truma, and that's what we're learning from there. She has a right to give permission to give truma away, but that's only if she's married. Our Mishnah is talking about she's engaged, and that's what the Mishnah means. When our Mishnah says that if she's engaged to a Levi, she cannot eat truma meiser, means we're talking about that she cannot appoint anybody to go ahead and do these things without her husband's knowledge. And meiser can mean other meisers as well. Says the Gemara. My Ravina says, no, you know what it means? No, we're talking about eating. We are talking about eating. She's a wife of a Levi, or she's engaged, she's a fiance of a Levi. As a fiance of a Levi, she's not allowed to go and collect meisers from customers. Let's say your husband has a list of clients that give them meisers. She is not allowed to go to their private fields to collect the meiser while she's engaged. Says the Gemara, now there's two reasons why women shouldn't go. Wives shouldn't go to private places to pick up the truma and meiser. Either because of yichud, we're going to learn in the Gemara Exodus. Either it's because of yichud, because they can be alone with somebody, and therefore she's forbidden, or because we're worried that one day she'll be divorced from her husband and she'll continue going. That client doesn't realize what's going on and continue giving her when she's no longer entitled. If the only reason why she's entitled to eat truma is because she's married to a kohen, when she's divorced, she can't. So says the Gemara, and in our Mishnah talks about the fiance. It says the Gemara, if the reason why you don't give truma is because you don't because we're worried about yichud, that's why you don't give truma to her alone. Makes sense. But if the reason is that what? The mandam should work, and she'll continue eating when she's not entitled to it anymore. She'll be over there. Because the Yisrael, she's a Bas Yisrael. Bas Yisrael cannot continue eating truma if she's not married. But when it comes to meiser, what are you worried about? If the reason is because that maybe she's divorced, you'll continue giving her. But if it's meiser, who cares? A Yisrael is permitted to eat meiser. So the Gemara is holy. The mandam, but also says the problem is that maybe she's a grusha bas levi. If she personally is a bas levi, what the Mishnah is talking about a bas levi. Who cares if you could continue giving her to eat meiser? Even according to a mayor, a bas levi is allowed to eat meiser. So what's the problem? If you tell me the pshat in the Mishnah, the end is that she shouldn't go alone and collect the thing, and regarding fiance, shouldn't go alone because meiser and because might get divorced, so she's still a bas levi, she can go eat. So Levi Mila Achel b'Meiser, can't you eat Meiser? Said the mother, right? Well, the time following your logic, the time it says in the Mishnah, Grusha Bas Koyin Mila Achel b'Truma. The Mishnah also says that a Bas Koyin. You're telling me the Mishnah is talking about collecting by a Bas Koyin. She shouldn't go alone. If she gets divorced, who cares? She's a Bas Koyin. She's allowed to go back because a Bas Koyin, when she's divorced, she's allowed to go continue Truma. Ella, the reason is The reason is why even a bas kohen, when we say that a woman should go alone to collect, we don't make a distinction whether she's a bas Yisrael or bas kohen, it doesn't matter. But if she's a bas kohen married to a kohen, what are you worried about? That they'll divorce and continue eating? So what? She's a bas kohen, she's entitled to continue eating. None of us, we're making a blanket gzeira. We don't distinguish between the two. El gzeira mishum grusha bas Yisrael. We're going to allow, not everyone knows how the complexities of these laws, and if we're going to allow a bas kohen to continue to go alone, then people think, well, what? People don't realize the reason is because she's a bas kohen. Don't think the reason is because she's married to a kohen. So then a bas Yisrael also will continue going. And bas Yisrael, we're worried that if she's divorced, she'll continue going. She herself doesn't realize it. The farmer doesn't realize it, and she'll be eating truma when she's not allowed to. And you chayv misa. So if that's what we're talking about here, whether they can go and collect, then why talk about a fiance? And if she's married, it's the same thing. Even if she's married, she's not allowed to go on her own because of either yichud or because of the gzeira of grusha. Why does the Mishnah talk about if she's engaged to a Levi, and you're telling me it's talking about she shouldn't go on her own to different clients to collect? Gemara says you're right. But I did a ton of ratio. That's the ton I'm saying. That's because the Mishnah is talking about engaged, so we continue talking about engaged. But you're right, makes no difference. So what we learned, Truma is to a kohen, and Ma'ase Rishon LeLevi. Give it hold that Ma'ase Rishon is exclusively the domain of a Levi, and Truma is exclusively the domain of a kohen. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, La kohen. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, La kohen v'loy la Levi. You're telling me that when it says, so sorry, Rabbi Elazar, you're saying that a truma is to a kohen and ma'ase to a Levi. Rabbi Elazar says, la kohen that only that kohen v'loy Levi. What aim after kohen. That in other words, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, the Ma'ase goes to a kohen and to a Levi, not just to a Levi. According to Rabbi Azariah, not only is what do you call it? Is a kohen entitled to what do you call it? Not only is a Levi entitled to Ma'ase, but Ma'ase Rishon can be a kohen and Ma'ase. Sorry. Rabbi Elazar said the word la kohen, but Ma'ase Rishon goes to a kohen. What are you talking about? Ma'ase Rishon goes to a kohen. But Leila Levi, what do you mean? Ma'ase Rishon, everywhere it says Levi. He means after kohen. Rabbi Elazar argues, but he holds that a kohen is also entitled to Ma'ase Rishon. It's not like you have a choice. You can give it to a Levi or to a kohen. So when my time Rabbi Kiva, why did Kiva hold it that the Ma'ase is exclusively the domain of Levim? It says in Fashion Apostle, when it talks about Ma'ase, it says El HaLevim to Dabe, speak to Levim and tell them that they will take Ma'ase from all the Eden. But it's only exclusively the domain of Levim. So how can Rabbi say that La Kohen and also a Kohen says Levim? He follows the same view as Shmuel Levi. Shmuel Levi, it says Shmuel Levi, but Estim ba'arba mekayim, that 24 places Nikru Kohen Levim. The Torah says Levim, but it actually means Kohenim. And this is one of them. It says Ma'ase to Levim, but it means the entire tribe, including Kohenim and Levim can accept Ma'ase. Says the Gemara, Kohenim. There's a passage where it says Kohenim haLevim, the Kohenim the Levim, Bnei Tzaddik, the children of Tzaddik, and so on and so forth. So we see clearly from here that Kohenim and Levim are the same. Says the Gemara, and because Tzaddik himself was a Kohen, and he calls him haLevim. So we see that a Kohen can be called a Levi. Rabbi Kiva, what does he say? He doesn't believe a Kohen can be referred to as Levim. He says, yes, you can, but not here. You can't say that. See, it says in the passage, where should you eat this Ma'ase? It says, we had it before, you can eat it anywhere you want. Now, a Kohen has certain areas that he can't go to. He can't go to basic forest, for example. So you cannot eat it anywhere where you want. So obviously, we're talking about Levim, not Kohenim. Where you want. You have a Kohen included. Basic forest. He can't go to a cemetery, so they're not included. What's Rabbi Elazar going to answer to that? It says, how can it be referring to Kohenim? Every place means it doesn't have to be only, let's say, in a walled city. You don't need a walled city. You can eat Ma'ase wherever you want. However, doesn't mean a cemetery. And also, if you ate Ma'aser while you were tameh by truma, when you ate truma when you are tameh, it's an aveda. And you get malchus and so on. But by Ma'aser, if you ate it, you don't get Maisa. So B'chol Makom means also in every situation. Against there was a gardener, the Havishoker, Abozazai, Maisa, Rishimin, Abozazai was a Kohen, and he would go to this client and he would pick up from him Maisa every time. Oslo Rabbi Akiva went, Ahadre lepischa lebeikivra. There were two entrances to this garden. One was out in the open, one was through a cemetery. Rabbi Akiva shut down the other door and only allowed the door through the cemetery to prevent Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah collecting his Maisa. To prevent him from collecting his Maisa. So, and because Rabbi Akiva wanted to make sure that he was right and Rabbi Elazar was wrong. Kohanim have no right to collect Maisa. Omar, so Rabbi Elazar got very angry. He said, Akiva betarmiloi. He said that Akiva goes around with his bag, like a special knapsack as a shepherd. Because Akiva was a shepherd, and he was really poking fun at him and reminding him, Akiva, who do you think you are? What are your roots? You were a shepherd by Kalba Savua before you married his daughter. And I'll still live. I'm a very rich man. We learned before many times. He's a very rich man. I don't need your favors. But he got really angry. Interesting. He's a very rich man. And yet he got angry because he denied him a client thing. So what was he angry about? That he denied him a source of income, or he's angry the fact that Akiva not only argued with him, but he made sure that Elazar himself had to follow Akiva's opinion. Anyway, so they're arguing. Akiva holds Kainim only Levim, and Rabbi Elazar holds Kainim and Levim. Second about Ipon, we learned if the Mount Consul Levim, but Maisa, what happened was after the story of Ezra Sea, when all the Eden came back to Yisrael, they decided to levy a penalty against the Levim. Why in regarding Maisa? What was the penalty? The penalty was whether it was only Kainim together or Kainim and Levim together, but why would they get a penalty? Rabbi Yonasan, the Sabi was an argument, Rabbi Yonasan, and these older people. One of them said because they refused to join Ezra to go to Israel, to emigrate to Israel when they built the second base of Mikdash. Kainim during the times of Tameh, the poor, they can't eat truma. So therefore, to help them out, we gave them Maisa. The one of them says that the reason is that you go to Israel. Okay, makes sense. It will penalize. Kainim should have what to eat been made to Masa. Because Kainim can see the Levim, because Kainim should have what to eat. We took it away from the Levim to give it to Kainim. Why do Kainim take pieces over the Levim? Why should we take away the food from the Levim to give it to the Kainim? Doesn't make sense. Says, well, you're right. Everyone agrees. We penalized them. We penalized Levim for not going up in the times of Ezra. This is the argument. The Mar Sava Consul Anim, that Mar Sava. So one of them holds that we penalize them. That where should the money go? That the poor people should get the Maisa. Well, Mar Sava, another one holds no. Koinim made to Masav Anim. Another one holds that we gave it to the Koinim because Koinim were considered poor. All the Hashem have a problem, according to Rabbi Akiva, which seems like he agrees. Rabbi Akiva holds that Kohanim have no right to eat Maisa. So how can the Chacham come and penalize Levim and take it away and give it to Kohanim when the Torah says clearly it's only Levim? So somebody tried to answer Hefke, Bez, and Hefke. They can have a right to take people's money away. But that doesn't really answer the question because you're giving it to Kohanim when the Torah said it belongs to Levim. So others say that the Kohanim, when they receive the Maisa, they're acting as if they are a shliach for the Levi, and the Levi is giving them permission to go ahead and eat the Maisa. So they are. So people did discharge their chiyuv. The chiyuv is to give to Levi, and the Chacham say, "You know what? Give it to the Kohanim." How did people fulfill their obligation of giving Maisa? So it must be that these people were acting as the Kohanim, were acting as a shliach on behalf of the Levi. So when they received it, as if you fulfilled your mitzvah of giving it to a Levi, and then the Levi is as if the Levi is saying to the Kohen, "You can have it because hefker bezin hefker." So that's where how the bezin circumvented this problem. Says the Gemara. It makes sense. That we penalized and they should go to the poor people. That's why Rabbi Akiva turned around and he closed the door because he believed it shouldn't. Remember, they lived after the story of Ezra. Rabbi Akiva believed it shouldn't go to a Kohen, go to the poor. And you're a rich man. And you're a Kohen. But the one who says that it went to the Kohen, why don't we give it? So Rabbi Elazar was entitled to it. Even if you have an argument in the times of the first base of Mikdash, but the second base of Mikdash, everyone agrees was penalized Levim, and they gave it to the Kohen. So why would Rabbi Akiva obstruct his path? So this is what Akiva was saying to Rabbi Elazar. If you're coming here as a penalty, fine, Islach, then you're entitled. But if you're coming in not as a penalty, you're coming in because you feel that the mice was given to both, then leslach, then you don't have a right. Says the Gemara, how do you know How do you know that the Levim Taka didn't go emigrate to Israel in times of Ezra? The Chsiv, because there's a pasuk where it says the Ekbatzim of Anor, I gathered them all together to the river Habo El Ahava, the Nachmasham, in place there. And we rested there, Yamim. We rested there, Yamim, like 3 days. Lavida Baham, and I looked around at the people, trying to understand them. Uva Kainim and the Kainim. Obam de Levi Lematasi. I couldn't find anybody from Levi there. The Levim didn't show up. Amram Chizah. They used to have, who were all the guards? They were all Levim. As it says in Pasuk, the Levim were their guards. Today, but today we only use the Yidden because there's so few Levim. So it says that there are so many more Yisraelim than Levim. Actually, many shuls say you'll see there are also many more Levim than Kohanim. But anyway, it seems from here that the Kohanim came. It was Levim who refused to come. Let's just do the next Mishnah. Now, this is sort of a summary we learned in the past. We continue to hear about Truma. This is how it works. A Bas Yisrael, Shnishal Kohen, if a Bas Yisrael married a Kohen, she's now entitled to eat Truma. Teichel b'Truma. Mess, if the husband died, the lo menu ben, if there was a child between the two, then she can eat on account of the child. Teichel b'Truma. She can continue eating Truma on account of the child. Nisa is a Levi. The same thing with Levi. She married a Levi, she's entitled to eat Maisa. And again, this must be Rab Meir, because according to the Chacham, anybody can eat Maisa. You don't have to be married to a Levi to eat Maisa. Mes, the husband died, and she has a child from the Levi. She continues eating Maisa according to Rab Meir. What about Nisas li Yisrael? She's married to Yisrael, then loy seichel loy b'truma v'loy b'maisa. Even if she's a Bas Kohen, if she married, or a Bas Levi, she's married to Yisrael, she forfeits her rights, and she can no longer eat truma, no longer eat Maisa. What about Mes? And if the husband dies, it depends. Again, the loy men of Ben, she has a child, so she's still considered a Yisrael. She has an anchor as a Yisrael, loy teichel loy b'truma v'loy b'maisa. She cannot eat truma and Maisa. What about Mes b'nom Yisrael? She's a Bas Kohen, but she was married to Israel and had a child, but the child died. Then, if she's then Toichal b'Maisa, she can start eating Maisa. Because remember, she has a son from the Levi, so she cannot eat Truma like originally, but she can eat Maisa. Mez b'Nob Levi, but then later on, her son. She's not having good luck. Her son of Yisrael died. Now her son of Levi died. So what does she have left? She has left now the fact that she has a son from the first husband of Kohen. Then Teichel b'Truma. She reverts back. She can go back and eat Truma. Mez b'Nob Kohen. But then years later, her son from the Kohen also died. Then again, she's back to a Bas Yisrael. Like Teichel, she cannot eat Truma because she's no longer married to Kohen. She no longer has a son. Nor Maisa, because she's no longer married to Levi. According to Rab Meir, only a Levi can eat. And she no longer has a son. What about, that's a Bas Yisrael. What about the other way around? A Bas Kohen. She nisas li Yisrael. She married a Yisrael. She forfeits all her ability, all her rights, all entitlements. Like Teichel b'Truma. Mace, she cannot eat Truma. Mace, and the husband died, but Velohi men ben has a son, so she has a son in Yisrael. Like Teichel b'Truma. She cannot eat Truma. Then Nisas a Levi, the same woman. Then she married a Levi. Teichel b'Maisa. Now she can eat Maisa like Rab Meir. Mace, the husband died, Velohi men ben, but she has a son from that union. Teichel b'Maisa. She can eat Maisa. Nisas l'Kohen. She's married to a Kohen. Teichel b'Truma. If she's married to a Kohen, she can eat Truma because now she's married to a Kohen. Mace, if he died, Velohi men ben, and she has a son, Teichel b'Truma. What about Mes b'Nob Kohen? Her son from the Kohen died. Loi Teichel b'Truma. Son of the Kohen died. She cannot eat Truma because she still has a son from the Levi and a son from Yisrael. Therefore, even though she's a Bas Kohen, she doesn't go home because she has to be the same way as she came in, but she has children. Mes b'Nob Levi. Let's say a while later, the son of the Levi died, but she still has a surviving son from Yisrael. Not only she cannot eat Truma, like Teichel b'Maisa, nor can she eat from Maisa, because a Meir holds you can only eat Maisa if you're Levi. But then eventually, Mes b'Nom Yisrael, so all of her children died, and all of her husbands died, and she reverts back to her original state. She goes back to her original state, and she can continue eating Truma. And we learned before, Truma, but not Chazei v'Shak. She cannot go back to the Kachim. On this, there's a passage where it says, V'shava el beis aviyah, she goes back to her family, kinureh, just like when she was young. Melechem aviyah teichel, she can eat from the bread of her family. That means the truma. See you tomorrow, Mitchell, back 7:20.